della sua scuola. E poi abbiamo Sara Brunno, emerita, grandissima ambasciatrice della regione Sicilia. Come sapete, tutti gli anni noi ci avvaliamo della collaborazione di ambasciatori delle altre regioni, proprio per un'ottica di scambio, e quindi oggi ci parleranno di Fostering Critical Thinking and Online Reading Skills in Italian Projects, quindi qualcosa di molto interessante, rivolto ai docenti di lingua inglese della scuola secondaria, ma non fa male anche se ci sono dei docenti della primaria, e il webinar sarà svolto in lingua inglese, visto che è per docenti di lingua inglese. Velocemente, perché abbiamo qualcuno che oggi non è ancora iscritto ai Twinning, insieme al link che vi ho mandato questa mattina, trovate anche un file con tutte le istruzioni per iscriversi ai Twinning e iscriversi anche al nostro gruppo piemontese che si chiama Piemonte Twinning Community. Dopo vi faccio vedere brevemente come iscriversi, dove troverete le registrazioni di questo webinar, ma anche di tutti gli altri, quindi se volete approfondire un determinato argomento andate e lo trovate. Ricordate, lo ripetiamo sempre tutte le volte, stiamo ancora inviando le circolari a tutti gli indirizzari che abbiamo, però tra poco lasceremo questa prassi perché tutte le nostre circolari sono pubblicate sul sito istruzione-piemonte.it/Erasmus+, che è un sottosito dell'ufficio scolastico regionale, dove trovate circolari su Erasmus, i Twinning e lingue, tutto quello che riguarda le lingue straniere. Non dimenticate che esiste un sito nazionale Twinning che molti addirittura non conoscono e invece è da monitorare costantemente, perché a parte che trovate l'elenco di tutti gli ambasciatori di tutte le regioni, le esperienze più significative, anche l'Agenzia Nazionale organizza dei webinar di supporto e di formazione molto interessanti, quindi tenete d'occhio questa pagina. I premi e riconoscimenti, potete conoscere chi nella nostra regione ha vinto dei premi di qualità o premi nazionali o europei. Ci sono delle pubblicazioni, adesso io avevo proprio scannerizzato una pagina dove c'è una delle tante pubblicazioni, soprattutto quando finirà la pandemia, ma anche adesso in tempo di pandemia ne hanno fatto alcuni online. Ci sono quelli che si chiamano i PDV, cioè i Professional Development Workshop, che sono degli eventi a livello europeo, a volte anche nazionali, ai quali potete accedere. Tutti gli iscritti alla piattaforma Twinning possono fare domande di partecipare a questi eventi, qualora torneranno in presenza, sono finanziati dalla comunità europea. Si accede a una selezione, se si è selezionati potete andare a fare un corso di formazione di 3 giorni in una località in un paese europeo. Naturalmente ci sono poi questi Professional Development Workshop, sono su diversi argomenti. Poi ricordate che tutte le nostre circolari ed eventi sono pubblicizzati sui nostri social, che si chiamano tutti Twinning Piemonte, sia su Facebook, sia su Twitter, sia su Instagram. Vi ricordo per l'ennesima volta, per chi l'ha già sentita queste cose sono una ripetizione, però gli attestati verranno creati in automatico da un'app che si chiama Autocrat, e quindi è importante che quando io metterò, magari tra l'intervento di Katia e l'intervento di Sara, metterò il foglio firma, ricordatevi per favore di scrivere il nome e cognome con l'iniziale maiuscola e soprattutto di digitare attentamente l'indirizzo email, in modo che io addirittura ve li manderò già alle 17, 7 pochi, avvio l'app e l'app li crea automaticamente. Noi non interveniamo sull'attestato. Save the date, volevo solo ricordarvi quali sono i prossimi appuntamenti. Il 30 novembre abbiamo Vincenzo Ruta e Emanuela Boffe che ci parleranno di Genially, quindi questa app, web app che serve per fare delle presentazioni, escape room, insomma, ha molte funzionalità ed è bellissima. Il 9 dicembre avremo altri ambasciatori italiani della Puglia, dell'Emilia, del Trentino e l'ambasciatrice italiana di Europeana che ci presenterà questa bellissima biblioteca virtuale che riguarda tutto il mondo culturale, della cultura europea. Il 15 dicembre facciamo il nostro tradizionale Christmas Coffee, alla quale siete tutti invitati e alla quale abbiamo invitato i vincitori dei quality label nazionali ed europei, nonché abbiamo anche quest'anno un vincitore del premio nazionale eTwinning, che non è che presenteranno i loro progetti, non presenteremo i progetti in particolare, tranne 2 o 3, ma presenteremo i criteri di assegnazione dei quality. quindi perché questi progetti hanno vinto il quality. Quindi analizzeremo qualche giudizio sia di aspetti positivi sia i consigli che vengono dati, perché penso che possa essere utile per tutti per migliorare i propri progetti. Volevo fare vedere, per chi non conosce i Twinning, questa è la piattaforma europea, quindi non è il sito nazionale, questa è la piattaforma europea, twinning.net, la piattaforma per i gemellaggi europei elettronici tra scuole. Se non siete registrati, cliccate in alto, c'è accedi o registrati, poi purtroppo qui sotto nascosto, perché ho detto potevano scriverlo anche più grande, non hai un account, inizia, quindi iniziate ad iscrivervi, vi arriverà una mail in posta personale per completare l'iscrizione. Bisogna ricordarsi di completare questa iscrizione, altrimenti l'iscrizione rimane sospesa. Quando l'iscrizione è completa e quando l'Agenzia Nazionale vi avrà validati, perché siete controllati dall'Agenzia Nazionale incrociando i database con i database del Ministero, se siete veramente insegnanti, perché è una piattaforma che deve essere protetta, possibilmente se mi lasciasse anche fare il login non sarebbe male, se non girasse a vuoto. Sta girando o non sta girando? Io non vedo girare niente, perfetto. Cominciamo bene. È bloccato. Facciamo una bella cosa, chiudiamo e proviamo a ripartire con un'altra pagina. È proprio bloccato.
Però ti do una notizia, che
sì,
nella tua immagine di profilo, anziché la schermata nera, almeno io lo vedo nel
tu
riquadro,
cosa
si
vedi?
vedo praticamente il login
Sì, l'ho
dell'USR.
messo, l'ho messo.
Ah, ok,
No, mi
perfetto.
sa che c'è qualche problema sulla piattaforma, eh? In questo momento sembra proprio il momento giusto, quando tu hai un webinar su Twinning,
Giusto. Ah.
ma non è la prima volta che ci succede questo. Riproviamo, se è proprio bloccata non è il mio computer. Quando fa così che non compare il login in alto vuol dire che è bloccato. Non so se poi Sara...
Sì,
non
è
prendiamo...
bloccato perché sto provando anch'io.
Anche tu?
Sì, non si
Sta
può
girando?
accedere.
Perfetto, mi sembra ottimo.
È la giornata perfetta,
È la
allora. Mi
giornata
sembra
perfetta,
che...
non importa,
infatti.
lo vediamo poi più avanti, magari si sblocca. Lascio la parola allora a Katia, dico bene?
Sì, inizio io, sì.
Vai tu, intanto io
Ah,
quando parte ve lo dirò.
sì,
Quando parte il
adesso...
turno.
Ok, let's start. Okay, should be this. And it's very slow. Okay.
A posto.
Just a moment. Okay. So, as Silvana has introduced us with full details of our records. As a matter of fact, almost 1 year ago, Sarah and I met for a sort of project. We had to present something about media education. And from that moment on, we have started a sort of cooperation, because I live in Turin, in Piemonte, and Sarah lives in Siracusa in Sicily. And we have only met once a few weeks ago in person, but we have started a very fruitful cooperation. And we both deal and investigate about media education and everything that goes around the media education, not only in terms of a digital dimension, but also about the process of learning, teaching, understanding, and acquiring those competences that actually are needed in 21st century. So, aspettate. Okay, so we start from two words. The first one is what do we mean by digital? When most of the people talk about digital, they usually use it as a sort of adjective that goes with tools or platform, apps and whatever. But actually digital is a dimension, is an environment, is a 3D environment. Luciano Floridi, who is a philosopher about ethics of information and in technologies, he defines this environment as a sort of on life. So we are, as a human being, analogical, but we interact with something which is digital. So our life is both online and real. But when we mean digital, we sometimes combine this word with the word virtual. Virtual actually means that doesn't exist, but digital life, our own life, actually exists in reality. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It is immaterial, but it exists. So we have a sort of parallel dimension where we shift from one moment to the other that goes under the label of digital. When we come to literacy, the word literacy, we have to consider that just 20 years ago, literacy meant the ability to read and write and also to do some basic activities with maths, so what is computing thinking. Today, literacy is something completely different. The UNESCO definition, as you can see, I have put in bold the list of long verbs that actually define the digital literacy. So you can see that it is extremely complex because we can find the ability to define, to access, to manage, to integrate, to communicate, to evaluate and create. And then there are other information because how we can do all this kind of activities. We have to act as in a safe environment in an appropriate way. And at the same time, we have to master devices in a network and also to be able to communicate, to participate, to share with other people in both fields, social and economical. The European Commission has provided all citizens and teachers with two important documents. Here we are investigating about the definition of Area 1, that is the information and data literacy, that in a way goes under the reading skills. We can see that I have written Digicom 2.1, which is the current edition. Next February, in February 2022, will be released the new version that has some integration related to artificial intelligence. So I am starting from dimension 2, evaluating data and information and digital content, while Sarah will go on with the other two dimensions, dimension 1 and dimension 3, which is related about the browsing, searching, filtering data, information, and digital content, but also how to manage them and to put into a real practice. When we talk about the definition, the competence of the definition of these two, this area, we can see that there are two basic words, comparison and interpretation. So what is important is not only to analyze and critically evaluate, but also to compare what? Credibility and reliability of the sources. But at the same time, the other competence is that we have to be able to give an interpretation of this data and this information. But please pay attention also to the digital content, because when we read online, especially when we read online, the text doesn't come alone. The text is just one of the parts we will see later on of the message. So we have data, we have pictures, we have videos, we have sound. So we have to provide an interpretation of this complex set of elements. The question where we started from are all that you can read in this slide. So what does it mean reading online? How to tackle online reading in class? Do learners really read less than 10 years ago? And is it true that learners find more and more difficult to grasp complex content when reading? and what learners are expected to understand, learn, master when reading, and what competences, approaches, and skills do teachers have to master. Obviously, we do not have any magic wand. We are not such an expert, but we try to provide a sort of pathway in order to explore the following area: how we read between the lines. So we skip, we scan, and we branch. What competence and information teachers need to manage and master. How eTwinning is an invaluable resource for professional development, for methodological training, for developing the culture of sharing, peer-to-peer collaboration, and much more. How to start an eTwinning project and what's the added value. And last but not least, why eTwinning is unmissable for every European teachers. So first of all, we have to consider reading. This is a provocative title, Scroll, so dating back to Egyptian time, to screen today. So how reading is on screens is modifying, and if it is modifying our learning experience. There is an incredible neuroscientist expert, Marion Wolf, that has written this famous, probably you have read it, Proust and the Squid, where she considered reading as one of the most remarkable inventions of human beings, because she says that when we are born, reading is not inside our brain. We have always start to learn how to read. What actually happens is that in a way, we start creating a sort of design, an open architecture in our brain, and the medium, so the support where we read and the way we are going through the lines is modifying this structure. And the brain is really plastic. So when the reading brain is something that not only read, but think, feel, infer, and when we are reading online, so the digital reading probably is causing some problems, some modification is not a problem, some modification is different. So basically, when we are reading paper-based reading, we read vertical, from top down. It doesn't depend on, because we are Western. I mean, we are going through in a vertical way, and the reading is deeper and slower. It's more time demanding. And when we read on a paper, we usually go back and forth. We will see later on, we will carry out an experiment. And this allows us to evaluate, to analyze what we read. And in a way, if you have, some reliable skills, you can enact what is the critical analysis. When we are reading digitally on a screen, here is everything that you can see here happen in our brain. So first of all, there is not a linear reading. It's what now is called the branching, like the branch of the tree. So it is continuous process. And it is a sort of multisensory engagement, because there are pictures, sounds, hyperlinks, colors, and whatever. Everything is very fast. So we have to carry out all these activities very quickly. And this also requires sort of a deeper and a higher level of navigation skills and also interactivity skills. At the same time, we can also have a sort of cognitive impatience. We tend to skip, to hop from page to page, from hyperlink to hyperlink, to goes forward. And what happens is that we never go backward. We tend to go forward, we never go backward. So in a way, we are discouraged also to do that. And some experts says that this causes less imagination. Sometimes when you read, you imagine the situation, the people, the face of the people that are described on the pages. Think about a novel, reading a novel or short story. But doing this, carrying out this kind of activity probably reduces the impact of imagination. And probably there is a less sort of degree of engagement with the text content. Sometimes we can also notice that the fact that there is an overload information, so there are lots and lots of information, much more than before, causes that it's difficult to grasp the complexity of the text. Sometimes we do not focus exactly on what is the message, what is the content, if it is reliable or not. There are too many levels of interpretation. And so as a matter of fact, it's very complex, but we have a sort of shallow reading. We do not go deep inside. Blocked. So in a way, if we have to compare digital reading and from paper to screen, we see that the paper one is deeper, and the other one, anyway, involves big volumes of reading. Expert says that there is an average of 100,000 words that each one of us read every day. So it's an enormous amount of word. These are some experiments I have just taken a couple of hours ago from the web. This is The Guardian today. And this is an article that was online. Yes, The Guardian. And you can see, sorry. Sta andando indietro.
Succede a volte quando col drive.
Aspetta. No, sta andando avanti, non so, aspetta. Provo perché non riesco a...
Prova a scaricare le slide.
Purtroppo c'è qualcosa che non funziona. Okay, so this one, you can see that there are some hyperlinks and there is the temptation to just to hope. Actually, when you read, if you try to read the text, actually you do not read each word by word, but usually you tend to read one word every 4. And this is quietly encouraged when you read online. This other one, this is, for instance, this is the layout of a newspaper online. You can see that also the information, the basic lines are just 3 micro lines for each news and big pictures. And as you can see, on the left, there is a weather forecast, and the pictures are really bigger than the other ones. For instance, the one where the colored woman is hugging the man, that is the bald man, is playing an emotional impact. So usually we tend to probably to click on that before than the other ones. Obviously today there is this news of the Channel tragedy, so there is a higher evidence on that. This is a BBC Education. BBC Education, as you can see, doesn't provide any lines. They provide a sort of video interviews, so it's not reported, so they rely on the medium of the video. And just a few lines to present, to introduce this kind of educators. This is just the screenshot of a book. Is Proust and the Squid, and this is the passage. Try to read it. This is the passage written by Proust about. This is the preface of his translation of John Ruskin, and why, first of all, you can see that also your eye is designing a sort of geometrical pattern between words. You need to go backwards, even because you have to grasp the meaning, because Proust, in a way, is taking us to previous thoughts, memories, long stored memories, secret places. He provides us in sharing a sort of experience and is involving us while we are reading in this kind of experience. This is what technically is defined the passing over. So the ability to enter in someone else's life and mind. If I just take the same passage online here, you see that it looks different. And also the reaction of your brain. I don't know, I just want to ask if you can notice any difference between the two versions, if you have noticed any more comfortable experience with the paper pictures instead of the other one. Is there any reaction about that?
Potete attivare il microfono se volete, oppure scrivere in chat.
So the previous one was this one. And this is the second. Do you have any different reaction from your brain, or is it the same?
Personally, I can read this easily.
This one easily?
Yeah. For me, because
yeah.
The background in the other was too
yes,
dark
yes.
for my eyes. Just looking at the format.
Yes, is a format, first of all, but in terms of understanding the message, because what is important is also the effect about how we react with the content. What is important is just to test this one, because...
Of course. Can you move to the other one?
This is on. I cannot read the chat. Probably there is something in the chat.
They are all pointing the fact that they can read the second better than the first one.
The second better than the other, because obviously we are also using an online reading. So in a way, on the screen, this is clearer. But in a way, try to make an experiment at home.
Raffaella says that the first one is easier to read, maybe because it's more similar to a real book.
Yeah, that is a picture of a real book. The problem is, the question is that when we are using, this is interesting because we are using actually a media like a screen. And so obviously when we read something on the screen, obviously the screen version is clearer and easier to read. But in a way, is what you have to consider is the reaction of your brain, considering the content, okay? So the basic knowledge when we start dealing with reading. First of all, we are living in a time of change and challenges. Challenges are always very difficult to deal with, but they always have a sort of silver lining, which is they offer opportunities. So we have to deal with doubt, verification, and sharing, because we live in a culture of sharing. So we also have to teach our students, or in a way encourage them to doubt, to verify, and share properly in a reliable way, because when they come to the screen, most of the time they become author. They make reference to previous documents, and they must be accountable. So, and the other problem that they have to be aware, we all have to be aware, is how much artificial intelligence comes through the screens and the information. For instance, when we are looking for, I don't know, words or content or information, just browsing on the web, the search results are displayed by artificial intelligence algorithm, is what is called the black box decision. At the same time, also the data that comes through, so like pictures or ads or whatever, are generated by artificial intelligence. And sometimes all these elements combined, they provide what we call the bias, and information is full of bias. So in a way, thinking about what's going on, especially on social media like Facebook, for instance, which has a massive use of artificial intelligence, this is something that we have to consider. Most of all, we have to be aware of what's going on. The other point that we have to manage is the meaning and the potential, how to say, power of these words, just a few words, the difference between fact and opinion, the difference between mis and disinformation, and what is an hoax, what is a fake news, and much more. So, what is information? Here is a picture of a painting, and actually what we are looking at the moment, apart from a beautiful picture, is that they are communicating in some ways. They are talking each other, listening to each other. So information is actually, this is a definition that I have taken from Merriam-Webster and Oxford Dictionary, is a meaning that can be communicated. This includes also data, the visuals, writings, knowledge sharing, storytelling, and much more. Because actually when we share information, we produce information, we are both prosumers, so producer and consumer. And there is a problem because we need to deal not only with the so-called hard information, which is the traditional information provided by broadcaster, news broadcaster, but also soft information. And this opens the way to fake news, the so-called fake news. When we talk about what we use, what kind of information use, how much information we consume, actually we are moving into the field of information diet, exactly like the food. So the information diet is the individual consumption of information. So it in a way suggests the idea that there are healthy or unhealthy information or choices, and also the information behavior, because we choose this kind of information, or we select an information rather than another one, because we are driven by curiosity, addiction, for instance, or at least also the FOMO, so the fear of missing out, or the escapism, so like games or entertainment, we go online and read because we want to relax. And also the information usage, which is also actually involves the values, the perception of, I don't know, that problem or the habit we have in reading. And what is the news at this point? The news is new information, something that has happened recently, reported in newspaper, on television, or radio. These are the so-called hard information. So the difference between information and news essentially lays on the media, on the filter that this media applies to the information. So we are carrying out a sort of experiment. Do we just need to find if a news is true or false? But what about the purpose? What is the aim of that piece of information published online? What are the bias? who is behind, and is there anything fishy? Here there are just a few definitions of what we can find when we browse the net, for like propaganda, clickbaiting, advertisement, self-promotion, hoax, weird news, fake news, malinformation, and so on. So these are the first one. Here in the first picture, we have one of the former Premier of UK, Theresa May. And this is a picture that was published on the media, but this is the real picture. So you can see that here looks like there is a lot of people that are supporting her. And actually there are just a few people going around. So in a way, this is the picture that is deforming reality, is providing a different kind of message. Here is a picture by Selena Gomez, and on her private personal account, and it's something that she published, but she was fined because this is a sort of advertisement, and actually, she was not allowed to do. She was fined because she was promoting a sort of hidden message. She is holding a bottle of Coke, even if you cannot read Coca-Cola on the front of the label. But this is what is called not only self-promotion, but is a promotion. Is a brand. She is branding a product. These are news that are verified, both are verified, and this plays on the fact that it's quite weird because the Queen's turned down the Oldie Year Award, and in a way, if you're publishing this kind of news, it doesn't provide a sort of important data to our knowledge, but the fact that is a sort of clickbaiting news, because everything that is concerning the Queen, and also that is quite weird, is clickbaiting. It means that it draws the attention of the reader, draws the attention of likes, in terms of likes. This one is actually a true story. Probably you have read it or you have watched it. There was all the groups of the rangers of Yellowstone National Park that went in search of a teddy bear lost in the park. The story behind is really tears-jerking, but the story is absolutely true. But they play on the emotional impact, because this is not a relevant news. So this just playing the fact that it draws the attention of the reader. This other one is another one which is quite weird. It happened a few months ago, last summer, I think, where an Italian army tank, accidentally blew up a chicken coop in northern Italy. What is quite false is the picture, because there sort of is a mismatch. This picture has been taken in Rome. You can see the Colosseum in the background. So the idea is sometimes just to make fun of Italians in a way, about stereotypes or whatever. In a way, they are pulling the leg to Italians, because you say they accidentally blew up a chicken coop, but the news is completely true. Here, the news that has been reported widely about Ibrahimovic, football player, that was accused of killing a lion in South Africa, the news has reported widely. The question is that has not been verified. There is no confirmation that in a way that he has been sued for this. So in a way, even if the source of the person that is providing the information is reliable, this kind of information is unshareable, because there is no confirmation of the primary data. Yeah, this one is true or false. This is difficult to say. This is not a fake news, because the news is true, but actually this lobster diver, Fisher, was not swallowed. As you can see, in reality, was nearly swallowed, but there is this picture of him at the hospital. And so the news is true, but he was not swallowed, he was nearly swallowed. So in a way, it's something, again, that is quite clickbaiting. So if I see this kind of information, I have to doubt, I have to go to the primary source and to read that there is this nearly that makes a difference. This other example is pretty important to reflect on because this was taken on Twitter. It was published on 22nd of March 2017, soon after the terroristic attack in London. And you can see that in the picture there is a woman wearing a hijab, that she is just watching her smartphone, while on the floor is lying a person. If you combine the date and also the text, actually this kind of post is reinforcing stereotypes, prejudice, and hate. As a matter of fact, this picture was taken in 2015, so it was not related in any way to the terroristic attack, but it was published by a Russian troll, and in just 30 minutes, it was retweeted 1,586 times and got 1,767 likes. So you can see that in this way, you are driving the, I'd say, what is the bias and also the previous prejudice and stereotypes of people, reinforcing this kind of thing. So how to deal with this kind of information that actually every one of us with a Twitter account or an Instagram account come through? And most of all, is it disinformation? Is it misinformation? Probably is between the two, because disinformation is something which has been entirely prefabricated, is a misleading information with intent to harm. And misinformation pretends that probably there is not this intent to harm. But anyway, when you reinforce prejudice, when you reinforce stereotype, I'm not sure that this is not so negative, that has not such harm intention. And these are other forms of information that we every day we meet and we go through the news. For instance, these are used, for instance, in propaganda, political propaganda during the Trump's election, and also this one, because stop all the invaders. These are very, very dangerous, this kind of comments. They should not be retweeted, not be shared. And we have to teach in a way, or at least just to guide our learners in order to be more aware about this. About this, eTwinning is carrying out this year a very important mission, because this is the year of media literacy and disinformation. There is a group on eTwinning that is entirely devoted to this kind of theme. And so here you can spot and find the disinformation, which there is the link in eTwinning, but this area is you can find it in Learning Corner. And from this side, you can download not only the presentation slide that you can use with your students, but also brochures and guidelines for teachers, and loads and loads of other material. Another source that you can find in this group, because eTwinning is really a treasure trove, is a sort of St. Patrick well, in a way, we can say. You can find lots and lots of suggestions, but also material to develop professionally and also to acquire an awareness, a deeper awareness is a sort of quality awareness, I should say. For instance, there are this valuable recording of these events and meetings, for instance, with lie detectors, which is an important group based in Brussels of journalists. Then they are providing materials in order to schools and students and teachers in order to tackle disinformation. And just watching this event and also getting the material that they have put in sharing with us is something that you can actually start and using with the students in order to promote reading. At the same time, you can find also games like this one, which is linked to EU Science Hub. And it is a game about cybersecurity, but there is this point on digital footprints when I was talking about artificial intelligence, and also a way to have a technical language. So this is a highly technical test. You can simplify, you can in a way digest in a way this sort of source, but the activity is really, really valuable, especially if you are in secondary schools. When we come to actually what tools and strategies, we have tons of materials we can use. First of all, the lateral reading is something that comes from the SHAG, which is the history and the social studies in Stanford University, and is a sort of, not an approach, it's a strategical routines. It's something that learners, but also ourselves, have to start doing day by day, every day, which is mean that whenever we meet a piece of information that we are not sure of, or even we read on newspaper, online, obviously, we should open new tabs in order to find who is behind the information, who is the author, who is the person who is behind that piece of information, what is the evidence of what he is saying, and compare this piece of news with other sources. So in a way, we are testing the reliability of source. In this way, we are focusing on the point of view, the source, and the bias. As an inspiration, I just want to focus on this one. There was during the twinning weeks, a couple of weeks ago, it ended more or less. There was the presentation of an event that you can easily find out. Is the presentation of this web resource is called Stories That Move. In these Stories That Move, you can find 5 paths for every kind of learners and every kind of teachers that actually, in a way, guide a sort of reflection, encourage, trigger reflection through the storytelling. So you can watch videos, read stories, and this is a sort of a guided reading activity. It goes around 5 fields. And how can we use this material? First of all, we can use in class debate, but not like debating, which is much more complex, but in a way we can encourage students using basic skills, very, very basic. It's very easy to apply them to debate about the theme that comes out, and they are guided. You can have a public speaking. You encourage a small group of students to speak about for 3 minutes about one of the topics that are suggested over there, and they have supporting material. They can use also, I don't know if you know, Flipgrid, for instance, is a platform when you record videos, so they can record themselves, and the rest of the class, they can make comments and respond to other, to the previous videos. You can also have mind map. They can create mind map about that, or create webcasts and much more. The strategies they are going to use are inquiry-based learning, challenge-based learning, teamwork, in order to create quiz, escape rooms, but also games, very easy games like a word wall. And because it's a way to reflect on what they come through, what they read, and what they can infer, and also to look for additional information they can read, interpret, compare, and evaluate. I think I have run out of the time because it's nearly 4. So if we want to leave space for questions at the end or interaction with the other people, I probably stop here the presentation and leave the floor to Sarah.
As eTwinning is working, I quickly show where they can find the group of media and literacy. It's okay.
Yes, I have.
Yes, sure.
It's
And
okay.
if you want to have a short break, you can have
just a break looking up.
Grab a cup of coffee and come back, because I mean, 2 hours at once.
Well, let's have the break for those who already know the platform. For those who don't,
okay, fine.
I can show I can show briefly the platform. So I explained to you before how to enter, how to sign. When you are signed in, you click on your name, and below it appears via eTwinning Live. I put it in Italian to make things quicker. So you enter in the eTwinning Live that in all the times it was called your desktop, your the area only for teacher, only for you. So if you want to go and search the beautiful materials Katia has talk about, you go to groups, you paste, you write media literacy and disinformation, search, and you find the group. It's the first one. You go to the group, you click on, you go to the group, and then here on this black button, it's written join the group. I'm already in the group, so if I want to leave the group, I can leave the group. So you can surf through all the pages, and you can find all the recordings of the video calls and webinars and everything. It's a very, very useful group. Then we can go back to eTwinning Live, and you want to look for our Piemonte eTwinning community. So you go again to groups, you write Piemonte, you just write Piemonte, search, and not the first one because it's an Erasmus project, but this one, Piemonte eTwinning community, is our regional group. Again, go to group and pages. And in pages, you can find, you scroll, because it was created for La DAD during pandemic time to help schools with the distance learning. So we have some news about eTwinning in Piemonte, you have some news and tools about La Didattica a Distanza, some example of Didattica a Distanza, and then we have the repository of all our webinars. So you will see the page for today, 25th of November, critical thinking. We have the one yesterday for the teachers of Dutch language and so on, of German language and so on. You can see all the webinars since the pandemic started, because before we were able to run face-to-face webinar that was much, much better. So then for those who don't know eTwinning gives many opportunities. So if you don't want to start immediately a project between European classes, you just can use eTwinning Live for professional development. So here you can find seminars and online learning events. So learning events are courses that last usually 10 days. You are given tasks, or just you have to follow video calls, read materials, and they are very, very interesting. Or online seminars. So on a special day, on a specific day, at a certain time, if you are lucky, because it's very difficult to enter, too many people want to attend them, you can find different webinars on different topics. So you can use for professional development. You can use eTwinning, especially, that's the main use, to find schools, partner schools, to run projects, virtual projects with them. So you go to your age range and you open, and there are many messages from European teachers looking for partners, or you can create your post in which you talk about the project you would like to start and the kind of partners you want to have for your project. And when you have found partners, you can go to people, look for people. You can look for myself, for example. I can look for Sarah Bruno, because I don't know if we are in touch or not. We are contact or not. Search. I want to be contact of Sarah. Maybe if it works, because Sarah Bruno. Okay, I want to be contact of Sarah Bruno because I want to start a project with her. I'm not contacted with Sarah Bruno, so I send a contact request. She will get this contact request on this little bell here, and she accepts the request, and we can start a project together. So it's very important to remember, if you want to start a project with someone after you have found the partners in this area, partner forum, you have to make your partners contact, looking for them in people, and then if you want to know how to start a project, you have to follow our regional webinars, and we teach you how to do. We had 2 at the beginning of November, one how to use this space, and the other one how to use the area for the students. These are some of the projects I'm running. These are 2 European projects. So when you open a project, you are given a working space for your student that's completely safe. This is not for students, but it's for teachers, but never mind. And this is the space where only you and your student can enter. You can decide which pages you want to make visible from other people and which page you don't want to make visible because there are videos or photos of students. And you can start cooperating with the other classes. This very, very briefly to give an idea to those who don't know what eTwinning is and what's possible to do in it. In the meantime, we had our break. You had your break, and I put in the chat the link to sign. So before before Sarah starts, I put in chat the link so you can sign for today. And then Sarah can start. It might happen I disappear for some minutes because I need to make an important telephone call, but the telephone is always engaged.
Okay, Silvana, don't worry. I have
You can start.
Yes, I can start. I can tell our colleagues about some more information.
Yes, I just gave some ideas.
Yes, it was very useful. Thank you. So for the first time, for the first thing, okay, now I need the sharing.
You don't have the sharing?
No, because I went out and perhaps, yes, I entered as a participant.
That's the reason. Okay, yes. You have now. You have now.
Yeah, perfect.
Good.
Okay, so I like to move this bar because with this bar on the screen, on the top of the screen, it's a bit difficult. So at first, the important thing to do is to accept Silvana's invitation. So let's start from this. So here you find the bell with 4 notifications. So here is Silvana's invitation and I accept it with pleasure. So now we are friends, we can collaborate, we can do projects together, we can organize live events and so on. So to go back to our theme today, to our topic, excuse me. As Katia has said, we understood that media and information literacy is very important today, but we don't have to forget that media and information literacy are media literacy and disinformation, because these are the two ways to call these competencies that usually go together, and they will be focused even in the new DigiComp version that will be published in February. These are literacy. We don't have to forget that this competence is based on literacy, and literacy, as you know, has changed in the new framework of the key competencies for lifelong learning published by the Council of Europe in 2018. So literacy, reading, writing are considered not only as tools, as instruments, but especially are considered as functional competencies, functional skills that are based, as you can see from an extract of the description of the literacy competence, are based on some important actions like comprehension, interpretation, critical understanding. So all these verbs or these action verbs are really important. Search for, collect and process information, formulate and express written and oral arguments, of course, and it underlines the fact that in literacy is included this critical thinking and ability to assess and work with information. So once again, a critical attitude is emphasized. We can find it in every competence, of course. So we understand that for media and information literacy, reading becomes crucial. And we know that our students sometimes feel like being in a maze, as you can see from this poster, when they are online, because they sometimes get lost, or they sometimes get the first information they find without a critical approach. So as media and information literacy, MIL-CLIX, MIL is the short for media information literacy by UNESCO. So this project is also very useful. You can have a look online because there are lots of resources that you can use with your classes. It suggests that reading is sometimes the forgotten pearl of great price, as you can read from this effective slogan. So at school, how do our students read online? Why do learners search the internet for information? And why do learners read online in school and academic contexts? So what are the tasks they need to accomplish? For example, they need to answer to a question, so they start a search online, start searching in the web. They need to start a research, they have to solve a problem, they have to conduct an inquiry process, and so on. There are many purposes for reading at school, I mean, in the school context, in academic context, and using the information for the learners' studies. So when they start an inquiry process, these are the main steps that are, let's say, showed in this sort of infographic or flow chart that you can read here. The inquiry process has 4 steps. So the first step is pose real questions. So important and driving questions to start a process of research. Find resources, interpret information, and report findings. The inquiry process is always important in all new methodology, new teaching methodologies. Like, as you know, eTwinning, for those who worked in eTwinning, is basically founded on project-based learning, and all the variants of project-based learning, like, for example, problem-based learning, inquiry-based learning, and also challenge-based learning with the hackathon, are all based on heuristic approach, so on research. And on this slide, you can also find a series of questions for each step that guide the inquiry process. But let's start from a question, from the driving question. Starting a search with a driving question is very important. So students can be guided by teachers, of course, but they can also work on the first question that trigger their research process, their inquiry process. So this checklist can be used, for example. It's very handy, and they can understand if the question they chose to start their project help them, for example, to focus on the topic, to develop a line of reasoning, to consider a current problem or issue, and so on. So if it does, they can tick yes. If it doesn't, they can find way to improve it. And in groups, these kind of activities are very, very useful. So they need, after deciding, after choosing the first question, they need to organize their thinking. And how can they organize their thinking process? They need to analyze the topic and try to break it into smaller chunks. So to understand which elements are part of that topic. And for each element, they should try to think and to reflect how they can find solutions, how they can predict perspectives or consequences from each element of their topic. And then they can start searching online. But before starting an internet search, they, as Katia said, they need to understand what type of information they are looking for. If they are looking for definitions, if they are looking for facts, for opinions, for value judgments, and so on. So the question is, what is education? So they will need a definition. Or, for example, the question is migration likely to be beneficial? They need to find, they're looking for a value judgment, and so on. These are only examples, just to understand the activity they need to do. Search for information. Search is needs to be taught. It's not something that we can take for granted. It's something that it's a skill that students need to acquire, because today a new digital divide is between those who are able to search and those who aren't. It's all about developing critical thinking, of course, critical thinking skills, and to become, of course, independent learners. So before starting their search, students need to know that the items that they can find online can be data and information. And there's a difference between data and information, because data are simply facts or figures, bits of information. They become information when they are processed, interpreted, organized, structured, and so on. So information gives a context to data, to facts and figures. They need to understand, our students, our pupils need to understand that they will get in contact with the two kinds of data, primary data and secondary data. Of course, if they search in internet, they can find secondary data, because if they want primary data, they need to start some activities related to social research. So, for example, through surveys and interviews, through questionnaires, where they can get that data from primary sources. So which terms, if we need to teach our students how to get good results from a process of searching online, which steps do they need to do to find the best search terms, the best keywords? So they need to find, try to find precise terms and target their terms to what they want to obtain. For example, if they want to restrict their search, they can add the context, for example, the name of a country. They can also very quickly look at the titles of the web pages and the results, and understand if there is a correspondence between these results and what they are looking for. And if these results don't answer to the question, they need to change the search terms. What are the tips to improve? So what are the suggestions students can apply to improve their searching? For example, they can search within organizations specialized in that particular topic, or they can use the advanced search engine that in Google is very good, very effective, because in this way they can specify their area of searching, and they also can use other search engines, because search engines can give, other search engines can give, of course, different perspectives. They can also apply the Boolean operators in trying to join their keywords and to exclude some results they don't need. So after finding the results they were looking for, a reading process starts. So they need to read. They need to read and use the usual traditional techniques of skimming and scanning, on which we, as language teachers, are really expert. And at the beginning, they just read quickly to find let's say, all the key terms, the keywords that they that say that they have found the right source of information. Then selecting relevant information with a scanning process, and then thinking and reflecting on the meaning of what they are reading. So these two steps are selection and analysis of the information. And at the end, they can summarize the information and convert it in a new form. We are used to these new, let's say, new approaches to study. For example, we ask our students to make a PowerPoint, or to work on a project, or to, for example, post and share what they found in another form, summarizing the information they got. But selecting information, as Katia said, for the news is very important. So this is useful resource you can get from the library of the Central Library of Cardiff University, and it's a sort of flow chart with closed questions, yes and no questions, and to progress and understand if this information, the information the students found, can be used or not. So it's a guided selection. It's a guided selection. We will see lots of, when we talk about searching, about using information, we will find lots of resources created by librarians, because librarians, especially in university, in academic contexts, have always taught search. But as you know, as you can understand, technology and internet has transformed their job. So now they have changed their strategies because, of course, there's an incredible amount of information available to us, and they have to contrast this, let's say, overload of information and help the students, the learners, to move from overwhelming search to something more manageable. So they are working on this kind of tools that can be used for this purpose. Question the answer. As you know, critical thinking and let's say searching and researching is a process not driven by answers, but by questions. So these are the checklist or infographic with the traditional WH questions. Contains a series of questions, let's say, organized in categories that can help students to go beyond their superficial searching for the first information and be more specific, more critical, and evaluate their information. Another way to do that is trying to go beyond facts and get into the problem, so get into issues. So how can they do it? They can question their facts. So why the facts they found online are useful? Do they need these facts, and why do they need them? And here there's an example. Our town has no hospital, so there are no hospitals in our town. So what does it mean? It's we know that that a fact about our town. So why do we need to know this fact? Is relevant for our research? Why is it relevant? And what are the consequences of this? So try to investigate and to question the facts, to go beyond. Then the next step is, of course, taking notes. So from reading, they can organize their content, their information into diagrams, into maps, or write questions about things, or using colors to underline, circle, highlight words or phrases. There are many, of course, as you can see, I want to read them all, but there are many things they can use to take notes effectively. Of course, they don't need to read everything they find online. They don't need to write down everything, and they also must be careful not to copy and paste everything they find. These are, let's say, instructions that should be given to students to teach them how to search. but you know them very well, and don't use other people's work without quoting or referencing. So this checklist of do's and don'ts can be useful for students to remind them how to proceed. They need to reference. If they organize a bibliography, they put the books they read, but if they read web pages or blog posts, they need to reference them, to quote them. So these are ideas or suggestions, again, from another library, from a library of the University of St. Andrews, on how to reference blog posts, web page with an author, or web page with an organization as an author. So mind maps, here you have some ideas on how, tools to use to organize content in a digital way, in digital mind maps or concept maps. And here there are the tools directly linked to the resource, to the online website or app. So they can organize their source materials, analyzing it, and this is a table that can be used. So referencing at first, the date when they read that content, and analyze the content of that material, organizing information into categories, so issues, cause of issues, consequences, and so on. Another way to organize the material digitally is, of course, bookmarking and content curation. So to bookmark, let's say, to put, to collect all those web pages that they found useful for their research, for their inquiry-based project, they can use these tools, Diigo, Peltries, Wakelet. I know that you know some of them, because also Silvana, I could hear from some of her presentations, was very, let's say, used these tools a lot in a project, and they the students of course can learn digital competencies, digital skills through using these tools. So here again you have a list, and you have the links to the web tools. Charts and graphs. Charts and graphs are also important, but they can't be read as books or as, let's say, texts. So to read charts and graphs, we have to remember that the information on both axes is important and must be read carefully. They need to read the captions, and reflect on the information they get from the axis and from the captions, and understand if it's a trend showing how a phenomenon change, or if it is a comparison. So compared to situations that belong to the same issue. At the end, they can design an action plan. So when they, let's say, when they learned these processes, when they are aware and sure about what they need to do to perform a good inquiry process, they can organize themselves in groups. This can be a collaborative activity, of course, because all these problem-based learning, project-based learning, inquiry, and so on, debate as well, they are based on collaborative work. So they need to work in groups and plan and design a plan where they can say what's the outcome and explanation on how they want to achieve a goal, then the aim of their project. what are the tasks they need doing, and who is going to do what, a time frame for achieving their goals, and how they are going to evaluate the process they are, the project they are doing, and the process they are putting in action. So this can be one of the many, ideas to organize this activity. So they can have this table with the name of the team, then the team of the project idea, and organize their activity, of course, in tasks, actions, group members, time needed, and date for completion. These need to be showed to their teacher that can evaluate it, that can comment and give also suggestions to perform their activity. So these are, I'd like to, we are at the end of our presentation, and I'd like to tell you that these materials are available online in a Wakelet. That is,
then if you send me a copy in PDF, I upload also in our
yes, yeah, we are going to send you a copy of the presentation, so they can find the colleagues can find everything here in this Wakelet. So I'd like to go now to our eTwinning, and show you what we are doing at the moment to work on this content, because we like to be also practical and not only let's say talking about theory, but applying this and applying it. We have applied it in our classes, but now we want to apply it in eTwinning. So we started with a project. It's a very new, so you won't find much in it. So together with Katia, we started this project, eTwinning project, between and beyond the lines of information. And as you know, all projects are developed in the twin space. So we have just started. So as I said, you won't find lots of things in it, but here there's the welcome page. And so we displayed, so what's the abstract, so what's the aim of the project. So of course, exploring and analyzing different kinds of information. I'll enlarge it so you can see it more easily. Students will learn how to verify the reliability and accountability of information sources, and how to publish, and to share information responsibly. And the project goal is to develop students' awareness and critical thinking through collaborative and creative activities around the theme of news and information literacy, to become active and self-conscious citizens. So these are the objectives, and there are 6 partners in this project. 3 Italian. Is a bit unbalanced. Usually the eTwinning projects are with different countries, but we decided to do it together. So of course there are my school, there is my school and Katia's school involved, and there's another Italian school who liked the project, because this project was let's say it originates from the eTwinning campaigns, because every year eTwinning organizes 2 eTwinning campaigns, one in autumn and one in spring. And of course this year these are the last months of the year for media and disinformation, media literacy and disinformation. And we took part to this these eTwinning campaigns. I will show you the group. Okay, just a second. But in eTwinning weeks, they are the eTwinning weeks. And we were part of the group, the age category 16 and 19. And in this group, we had the role of coaches, and we helped other colleagues, and we involved them in our project. And this is the result. So this project started with the blessing of course, of the central support unit in Brussels, and we hope to do our best and to work on. Of course, we have already organized our activities in pages, but they are only drafts yet, so we are going to work and to write all the activities, the learning activities the students will do to go on with the project. We have, of course, as you could see, because you have listened to us for almost 2 hours, we have clear ideas, but as usual, we need time, because we are so busy, as you can imagine. Okay, so Katia showed some, and Silvana as well, showed the group Media Literacy and Disinformation. This is the group that was organized to support the theme of the year. And I'll suggest another resource that you can find in, excuse me, let me see. I was looking for it before. Must be here somewhere. In Sala Stampa, okay, this is the Italian version, and here you can find lots of information about what happens in eTwinning, and find the kits, for example. This is an article about kits. I'm sure that you know what kits are if you have worked in eTwinning. This is very, very interesting. It's another useful, let's say, Twinning friend is the history of is the House of European History, and there's also some resources here and links in this article that you can read and find. And the resource I'd like to show is this one. So he's excuse me, where is it? Here it is. So it's the new publication about media literacy and disinformation. So you can download it and you can find find lots of suggestions for your work in eTwinning on these themes of media and media literacy and disinformation. I don't want to be longer. I can talk okay for hours because this is St. Patrick's Well. eTwinning is as Katia gave this name, so this is a very effective way of defining eTwinning, because you never stop learning. There are lots of opportunities. Of course, if you work in eTwinning, you have to adhere to a philosophy, to a sort of mindset. eTwinning is a network, is a community, and it's a sort of collective entity. So we are all part of a group. This sharing and exchange happens from peer to peer. So we are all the same. We are all colleagues. European colleagues is a very big teachers' room, and where there are lots of opportunities of exchanging and of ideas, methodologies, contents, everything connected to teaching, and also learning from others. Learning from others is a very important aspect that I think that is characterize eTwinning much. So I wish you all the best with your project, and if there are questions,
ci sono domande.
Yes, if there are questions, I'm happy to answer.
Chi non ha firmato, adesso mi è partita anche la webcam. Io interrompo il live su YouTube, e quindi ringrazio.
Ah, Silvana, I can see you.
È partita la webcam, si è svegliata. Intanto ringrazio le 3 o 4 persone che ci hanno seguite su YouTube, che ci sono comunque sempre, e quindi